And today, I'm gonna demonstrate now the Jedi spot. I think you got one more in you. Let's go. Now guys, watch. Guess it's just not in me today. Howdy folks, welcome back to channel Traintrue. Sorry, it's been a while since the last video because we've been a bit busy selling these things. Great success, thank you very much for your support. And we just got these in as well, our new t-shirts. On sale already at the gym, on sale in a couple days on our neighbor store. So please check those out, and again, thank you for the support. But back to this video, we're gonna continue with the bench press series part 3, I believe. And I'm gonna go over, I guess I'm gonna call it the pre-unrack setup, or just, you know, setting up before you begin the bench press. In part 1, we did scapular retraction, part 2, the grip, and we're gonna do that all combined now with the unrack. Alright guys, so today we're gonna go over one of the 2 styles of setting up your arch and your feet before the unrack. It's kind of detailed, that's why we're gonna split this into 2 videos. So I'm gonna do what I consider to be the more common method, the safer method that most people can pull off first. And that's gonna be starting with your heels on the bench instead of your feet on the floor before the setup. Let's go. All right, so for the feet up version, first thing you're gonna do is just, you know, obviously sit on the bench. We put some weights on the bar because I can't really demonstrate this setup if it's an empty bar because it'll just fly off the rack when I'm trying to get tight. So of course, lay down. Make sure you're centered on the bench. I usually like to do this, make sure my head's in the middle. Then I like to scooch up a little bit just so I can get the heels at least. It doesn't matter how far you are up, depending on your height of course. So you don't want to be too far up here, you know, because I won't be able to get my arch in the setup. But you don't want to be so far down that your heels are barely on. So just enough, your feet are here. Alright, then from this point, you're going to do a big hip thrust. I prefer to either grab the posts on the bench or the bar. It's easier for me to get a big arch if I grab these posts like this. So I'm going to do a big hip thrust. However, as I do that hip thrust, I'm going to push against these posts so that my whole upper body gets closer to my heels. So big hip thrust, push, still big hip thrust, and then I place all my weight on my upper traps, okay? At this point, I grab the bar. Check out the previous video on how to grab the bar with your grip. Your grip doesn't have to be perfect at this point, so you can just kind of make sure your fingers are where they're supposed to be. You don't have to perfect the grip yet. Then, you want to pull the bar like a row. So you want to be, let's pretend my fingers are locked into the bar. I'm going to be pulling the bar this way. So my elbows are pulling toward the wall over there, okay? And I'm never letting go of the hip thrust. If anything, the bigger the hip thrust, the better, okay? So let me demonstrate. I just get a good grip on it. Again, fingers don't really matter, just get them in the right place. I'm gonna try to row it to myself as I do a bigger hip thrust. And then, next step, you wanna push your body on your upper traps more and more and more as you're still pulling the bar until you get to the proper location. Now, what is the proper location? If you're gonna do a self unrack, meaning you got nobody to spot you, generally the bar should be at least below your chin. So I'm gonna have to keep pushing. And right now it seems like below my chin, right? So that's like minimum. If you get really good at the self-unrack, it'll probably be even lower than that, and then you'll just barely clear the rack on the way out. But at first, don't go too low, because then you'll probably hit the J-cups on the way back up. So now I'm here, right? I got the bar a little bit under my chin, all the weight on my upper traps, okay? Now keep in mind, I'm doing a very, very long hip thrust right now, so my glutes are getting tired. It wouldn't normally take this long, but if you do get tired, you know, just put your butt down for a second, breathe a little bit, and then do another hip thrust. So I'm gonna go boom, hip thrust, and key for everybody, this is kind of an advanced tip because some people don't have muscle connection for it. You actually want to open your ribs here, so I'll demonstrate. I'm gonna do a hip thrust, closed, this is closed ribs, okay? Now I'm gonna do open ribs. You see how much bigger my arch got and how much more I can do scapular retraction with my ribs out. So ribs closed with the hip thrust, ribs open with the hip thrust. Big difference. So if you can open your ribs, get your scapular retraction here, that'd be great. Okay, now, assume you've done everything. I'm doing a big hip thrust, opening my ribs. By the way, I'm not holding my breath right now. You don't want to do that yet. So keep your ribs open. Just steady breathing, shallow breaths. Do one last big hip thrust for the next step. And put your feet down one at a time. Big mistake people make is putting both feet down too fast. So big hip thrust, ribs open. And I gently put my foot down. Now notice this leg is still trying to do a hip thrust to preserve my arch. Then the other one down. And stay on your tiptoes if you can. Still trying to keep your ribs open so you can keep the scapular retraction. Then at that point, you're still rowing, pulling the bar with your elbows. You want to put your butt down gently, but don't just put it down. You want to curl your butt inward as you're doing scapular retraction and place your butt as close to your shoulders as possible. So I'll demonstrate a bad way. Let's say I do a hip thrust and I just put it down. Very flat, lost a lot of my arch. But if I do big scapular retraction and curl my butt down, my arch stays bigger, firmer, much stronger position right now. All right, and then, final step, after you put your butt down, wiggle your feet around. You know, find the best location for your feet. I'll go over that in the next video, but for now, just make sure your butt is touching, but you have a very firm grip on the floor. Usually toes out a little bit is helpful. And now you're ready to unrack. So for the final step, what you're usually gonna do is, you gotta feel for it. You're still pulling the bar into you. Now you're gonna take that big breath. Then you're gonna do another final hip thrust. You could do it on your toes or on your heels if you feel uncomfortable. So you could do a hip thrust off your heels like this, sorry, toes, or off your heels. Technically off your toes will create a bigger arch. So if you can do that, that's great. So I'm gonna do that. Open ribs off my toes. Then that's when you unrack and do the scapular retraction that I talked about. Still ribs open. Then curl your butt in, feet down, and begin the press. What's that? I got a burp. I can't have gas in here for the maximum arch, you know. All right, let's do that all at once. I'll kind of talk you through it quickly. So just sit down on the bench, lay down, make sure you can get your heels or your feet at the end of the bench. Make sure you're centered. Try to grab the posts and do a big hip thrust. After you do that big hip thrust, push off the post so your whole body moves down. Then grab the bar with your normal grip. Okay. Then use your legs to put all the weight on your traps as you're pulling the bar into you. This does burn your skin, by the way. Do it until bar is about below chin level. Then, another hip thrust, ribs open, one leg down at a time. Keep the arch with the other leg. Stay on your tiptoes. Then wiggle your feet in place. Butt down, test where the butt is. Make sure firm grip. Then, final big breath. Keep your ribs open. Big hip thrust off your toes. Unrack. Scapular retraction. Curl your butt in. And you're ready to go. Very big tip for all of you. I see this as a very common mistake. So after you've done all that setup and you unrack, the big mistake is I see people put their butt down too early while they're unracking instead of fully unracking and then putting the butt down after. So I'll demonstrate first the bad way. So they do the hip thrust, this part's great. They take their breath, they unrack. And then over here, they already put their butt down, even though the bar is not fully out and the scapula is not fully retracted. Instead, be patient. You do your big hip thrust, big breath, ribs open. Bring it out all the way with the scapular retraction. If anything, your hip thrust should be maximum right now. Then curl your butt in and put it down when you're fully ready and your scapula is locked in. If you do that, your shoulders will remain so much stronger and safer. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see, because if you put your butt down fast, your shoulders are often in an unsafe, kind of apt position. They should be down here, fully tucked, then put your butt down. Thank you for watching our video. Third step of the bench press series. Please stay tuned for the next one. I'm gonna go over a little bit more advanced version of what we just did. And I'm gonna probably go over like foot placement and stuff in the video after that one. So stay tuned. Thank you.
아 진짜 맨날 뭐 제다이 뭐 자기가 무슨 벤치프레스 뭐 마스터고 제다이? 보스?